that?
There's the breathing again. Hey, everybody. We're live on WCJV Digital Broadcasting out of Youngstown, New York. You're listening to Half Past Dead Paranormal Radio with your host, Roger Belt, and your co-hosts, CJ, Cindy, John Pierre. And
hey, Roger. Hi. Whoops.
That's fine. Go ahead.
Good evening, sweetie. I'm here, Roger.
Okay. I didn't mean to step on you. I didn't know you was going to jump in right then. We got a couple of announcements before we bring our guest on tonight. We have two new shows coming to the network that are paranormal based. We have Cad Hobson of Paranormal Experienced. That's going to be premiering on Wednesday night at 7 Central, 8 Eastern Time, 5 Pacific, I believe is right. And also on Tuesday night, June the 2nd, we have Frank Lee of Casper Paranormal, Alabama, that's going to be coming on and doing a show on Tuesday nights. And I believe it's at 8 Eastern, or 8 Central. It'd be 9 Eastern, 8 Central, and 6 Pacific. I want to welcome Kat and Frank Lee to the network. And the main announcement that I have is everybody knows that it's Memorial Day. And, you know, no matter what you're doing, if you're grilling out, you know, you're having a good time. And I'm sure that our veterans would want that instead of everybody, you know, sitting around crying about, you know, all that. But just remember when you're doing that, all the people that fought and died to give you the right to be able to enjoy that tonight. So I want to make sure I got that out there. Our guest tonight is Lord Rick Rowe, and this man is multi-talented. He researches paranormal, UFOs, Bigfoot, all the cryptid stuff and everything. Very talented gentleman. Without any further ado, Lord Rick.
Hi there. I'm on the air.
How are you doing tonight?
Pretty good. Waiting for the next batch of rain.
I hear you. Well, we've had rain for the last couple of days and a few good storms come through. We don't have a set topic tonight. I kind of chatted with you a little bit about this because there's so many different things, you know, that we can talk about that's interesting. And we were talking about ghost towns, and I love ghost towns.
Well,
Kind of give our listeners a little rundown on a few of the ghost towns that you've been to, and you know what went on there. Did you have any luck, or just was it more like what's the word I'm looking for here? I can go hang out in a place and don't have to get anything and enjoy being there for the history. So that's kind of what I'm saying, I guess.
Well, the Paranormal Ghost Society, it's more than just a paranormal group. We're also in a very historical directed at preservation. And so, you know, like you said, you know, going to ghost towns is awesome. Just being there and a part of history is what it's about. But the secondary quest is always to try to capture something paranormal if you can do that. And not every ghost town is haunted. But I've been to Bodie, and I know Bodie is haunted. I know it because I captured a shadow being on film. And that some of the houses in Bodie are very heavily locked up and boarded, but you can stick a camera between some of the boards. You can, you know, film inside, take a picture. There was a few places, you know, I could go in, Roger, but ghost town, me and ghost towns, it's just it's like a passion of mine. And so when it comes around late fall, winter, early spring, I will go out into the bush of Nevada, and I will go to ghost town after ghost town. If there's mines, I'll do the mines. If there's cemeteries, I'll do the cemeteries. If there's a nice high point I can climb up to, I'll climb it. You know, I love it. I love it. But Bodie, not only did I get a lot of EVPs, because I really wasn't even trying. I just was like, if I get something, I get something. The town's so huge, you really don't know where to do an EVP session. It's like a shot in the dark. So not only did we get a lot of EVPs there, but I got the shadow being on film, and then Tammy was with me, and she's seen an entity in a building that was locked up. There's a lot of ghosts there. I go to a lot of ghost towns people haven't even heard of. I went out to Union City, where Mark Twain's cabin is. People there are not friendly. If you want to ghost hunt there, they'll stare at you out their windows. Very strange, not very welcoming. It's one of those places, it's like, if I'm alone, will that be my car in your backyard? So going to these ghost towns, you know, there are dangers involved. It's not just the paranormal. But when I go, I just went out to Austin. So when I go to places like Austin and Bodie and Chemung and these mining camps, all of them seem to have mild EVP. All of them. Even if it's just one or two. One or two is, you can kind of say, you know, there is something here. It may not be a strong presence, but it is a presence. And I went out, that ghost town that you used my picture for the banner, that's Kingston. And Kingston, nothing hardly remains of the town. It's sad, but that's the case with most ghost towns. Most of them are just piles of rubble and foundations. Some are more intact than others. Some might have 10 buildings, 20 buildings, 50 buildings. Just depends on where you go. I like to go in abandoned buildings. That's my thing.
You were telling me that you had to go over mountains and valleys and all this and that to get to that place, right? Was there not a road into it that you could take? Or
I had to drive over the Toyabe mountain range, and it's the Toyabe Forest. You have to understand that in Nevada, you have from north to south numerous mountain ranges. You also have some that come diagonally and east to west. But every time you hit a mountain range, you hit national forest, and you get off the mountains halfway, you hit a vast desert. Then you go up another mountain, and it's the same thing throughout the whole state. And to get to Kingston, you have to drive down, there's this dirt road, and then it becomes really rugged, and you go up into the mountains, into the Toyabe Mountains, and you physically climb this peak. And when you go over the top of the peak, it's almost straight down. And we went through snow there. There was some wet areas where the snow was melting, so the creek was running across the road. So it took, you know, you're talking a couple hours over the mountains down this dirt road. There's no gas stations. There's nobody to hear you scream. So you might as well just enjoy it and go, you know, and just do it. So I climbed the entire range. And that day, I climbed 2 ranges because when I was done with Kingston, I crossed another desert and went up into another mountain range and went over it and went to go see this rock. It's called the Monitor Rock. It's named after the Monitor, the ship. So it's just, I don't know. You know, when I do this kind of thing, when I work in Nevada a lot, and I go to, let's say I go to Virginia City, because I've done a lot of places in Virginia City, more than Ghost Adventures ever did or anything like that. I work with Virginia City a lot, and it's a semi-ghost town, which means you have some buildings that have been restored, renovated, and some people live in there. There are some businesses, while you'll have many, like next to a establishment or a saloon, you might have an abandoned saloon, or you might have an abandoned house, because they are semi-ghost towns that went from 15 to 20,000 people down to, let's say, a couple hundred or 100 people. And in some places I go, there are no residents. It just depends on where I decide, you know, to traverse. But when I go to Virginia City, when I go to Virginia City, I almost come back every time with some kind of evidence, whether it's an entity photo, an EVP. These ghost towns are great places to look for the strange. Not a lot of people go to them. Very quiet, very desolate. You can take solid recordings scientifically, and you don't have to worry about wires interfering with the EMF or per se someone else speaking in the recorder, because if I'm in some mine or some ghost town and it's just me and my team's off doing something else, because I like to go alone a lot and wander and explore like a little boy, then, you know, you're going to get something. You're going to get something.
Lord Rick, can I ask a question?
Sure.
Mishka in the chat room wants to know if you ever investigated the Goldfield.
No, I've been through Goldfield. It is on my agenda because it's not that far from me. A few hour drive. You can go through Bishop and then cut across. But Goldfield's something that I think I want to schedule to get in some of the buildings there, because right now they're arresting people left and right. It's not your typical ghost town. It's watched. There's security. You know, it's taken care of. But it is haunted, and I've been there about 3 times. I just have never really, you know, I'm like, I'll investigate this when the time's right, because I see ghost towns all the time. I went up to one in the Sierras called Boca, and there's a little cemetery on the hill and a few foundations, and the train comes right through it, and there was a mountain lion that ran past us, and you could see the tracks to the cemetery. So there's all kinds of beasts and things lurking out there. You got ghosts, and who knows what's up in the mountains of Nevada and California. There's no way to know for sure everything that's out there because it's so vast. Hundreds of square miles, thousands of square miles this area is. And so you don't know what you're going to encounter. You have to investigate and then declare if this place is paranormal or is it just a historic place that's meant to be enjoyed.
Baca, is it pronounced Baca or Boca?
Depends. Could be.
I read some stuff on that here not long ago, and that's the reason I was thinking it was pronounced Baca, but and I can't remember now. Good God, it's been a little bit, and I've slept since then. But I was trying to. Oh yeah, the one that I was going to ask you if you'd been to was the one that it's got a funny name. It's named after some guy. It was an old western town, but I think it was also like a mining town.
Well, that was Bodie. Bodie was named after.
Bodie, yeah, that may be what I'm thinking of.
Mm-hmm.
There was one that I read about where something about a woman came through there. She was like a performer, and while she was there, she was going to leave because she was only passing through, but a lot of the guys begged her to stay, and they liked her so much, and so she stayed. And then there was a disease that swept through, and she took care of a lot of the people, and it was something about some guy that got bushwhacked on a hillside, and they buried him in the cemetery there, and her ghost was seen putting flowers on his grave or something like that. It was really weird.
There's a few ghost stories. I mean, there's this one place I went to, there was a hatchet man. And that town was lawless. And the town had no justice, so they would hang the people on the hill. If you were out of line, that was it. You murdered someone, you were done. But you have to understand, all these ghost towns, because there's hundreds of them around, most of them died out because either the mining died out or a disease hit it. In Delamar, you had the Widowmaker, and it would cause silicosis or whatever, or the lungs, because they would be breathing all the small rock particles in the air. The town was they had so much mining in that little bowl, and all the houses were around there, the children were dying, breathing it in. So they call it the Widowmaker, because a lot of the
What do you have? You have some kind of background noise that keeps coming in. I thought it was rain. It sounded like it was pouring down rain or something.
I don't know what that is, but
it's all perfect right now. It's perfect.
Yeah, it sounds really good right now, but that'll come in every now and then, and it sounds like really loud, whatever it is.
Well, I'll just repeat what I said because I heard static. It was called the Widowmaker, Delamar, because what happened was that a lot of the men died working in the mines. And so the whole town had nothing but women living in it. So when you get sites like those, you have to be reasonable and say, is there energy here? I mean, when I looked at the historic pictures of Boca up in California, I have a picture of the whole town. You see big Victorian man.
That sounds like wind or something.
That's not me.
I don't know. I hear it once in a while, and then it fades in and out. But you sound really good, and then all of a sudden you'll hear that windy sound or like pouring down rain sound or something. Anyway.
So when you look at these ghost towns and you look at the historic pictures, because those are important as well when you go to ghost towns to see the historic archives, you'll find out that where you're standing in the town, there may have been a mansion where someone died, an axe murder. It was very lawless here out west. Therefore, people did die. They were murdered. They were killed. A lot of Indian raids. I'll go to cemeteries. They'll say died by Native American raid. So, some of them talk about how someone was tomahawked in the head or something.
In these ghost towns and everything, do you find like a lot of Indian mounds around them anywhere? Or?
There are some Native American cemeteries, but a lot of times the Native Americans here out west don't build mounds, graves, use grave markers. So I don't know what why that is. Maybe it's a religious thing or a spiritual type of thing. Maybe they don't want people knowing where the graves are.
Well, there that is. Whatever it is loud.
I don't know why it's doing that. Because it's...
Michigan said California has many ghost towns, lots of history and activity. Yes, I'm sure it does. Did you ever do Boot Hill?
Boot Hill? There's a Boot Hill in Virginia City.
In Arizona.
No. I worked a little with northern Arizona. I went to Sedona and a couple other places. But when I moved up here, because I was living in Vegas for a few years, I moved up near Lake Tahoe. So now I work a lot with this region. Northern California, Central California, most of Northern Nevada, Central Nevada.
I was referring to Tombstone, but...
Tombstone?
And I'm assuming Tombstone got its name because of all the death, but, I'm not positive on that. I'd have to research that a little more, but supposedly there's a lot of apparitions, caught in the Boot Hill Cemetery, and I was just wondering if you ever made that one. But
no, I know what you're talking about, because Tombstone is somewhere I definitely would go. The way I do ghost towns, when I visit them, I like it because I'm able to explore what I want to explore, and then I can also do the cemeteries, the mines, and all that.
Right.
Some of the mines are, you can go, I found this one mine that's 20 miles deep, and so it's important to also go into the mines, because out west, almost every mine had minor deaths. And I read somewhere there's 500,000 mines between Nevada and California. And I'll never find them all, never see them all. Most of them are being closed. But I did find a mine near Kingston, and I went inside the mountain, and I must have hiked in a mile or two, and it just never ends. It just keeps going and going and going. And those are great places to do EVP. Great places.
I have a question. Lord Rick, when you've been to all these places, now we're from back east here, so we don't know. Mm-hmm. When you're doing all these different places, these mines, these hotels, or what have you, are you finding more like residual hauntings, or are you finding intelligent hauntings, or what percentage would you say you see the most of?
It's about 50-50, because sometimes when you do an EVP session and you say something certain, you can tell that it's a conscious being talking back to you. But I also was at an orphanage back in December, and I did see a ghost real quickly. I only got about a 2-second glimpse of it, but it just like vanished right before my eyes. Just went right towards the buildings and gone. However, some of them could be residual, like the sounds that I pick up. Sometimes I'll pick up some weird noises. It might be some train locomotive inside a mine, or in a ghost town where there's no train. Would you get that kind of? You probably theorize that it is residual, and then when you see a being, or perhaps, well, some beings are residual too, but sometimes when they see you and they know you can see them, they will take off and be gone in a heartbeat, which is a really strange experience. Because that means the dead can communicate with the living, and the living can communicate with the dead.
Okay, and I also wanted to ask you, when you're in a mine shaft or something, there's got to be a terrible echo. How do you record in there, and what do you know is actually like an echo or versus a paranormal sound? How do you differentiate?
You got to analyze the audio. It's just audio technical. Like you got to look at wave patterns. You got to listen to it. It's a hard determination to make, because you could be in a mine and something could fall and echo throughout, and you don't know, did a ghost knock this? Did you knock something? I try to be fairly quiet in mines because I like to listen for the paranormal, but when it comes to certain sounds, they're just that sound. If you go in a creaky house and it's old and it creaks, it's probably not paranormal.
Well, okay, thank you. I appreciate that. Roger, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to ask you, you brought up about trains, and I was going to ask you, have you ever experienced, and is there such a thing as a ghost train?
Yeah, there are ghost trains. I went to a place called Pigman's Road in New York, and there's a little bit of an urban legend about this man named the Pigman. So, we went out there 2-3 times to go look for it, because I was like, I want to find that beast. Get that beast, picture of that beast, and then I started to see how much of a fake story it was, that people made it up. But what people did not really do the research about, but I did, I found out that there's a bridge that crosses Pigman's Road, and there was a train, a steam engine, and it had some kind of accident, and one or two cars, it cooked the people like lobsters. They basically were steamed to death. And there was like, I don't know if it was 19 or 31 people, maybe it was, I think it was 33 people became roasted from the steam. They couldn't get out of the car. And so, you know, they used to use the old steam engines. Well, I went to that spot where the accident happened, because it came off the bridge and came down the hillside. And when I was there, I heard this old steam engine train coming through there, and nothing was there. But it was a train, you know, it was a train whistle. It was steam. You could hear steam being released. You could hear the, you know, like when the engineer pulls his horn, his steam horn. You could hear that, and you could even hear people talking. It was very weird. But that's been my only experience with the ghost train. Although I did get a couple EVPs with strange sounds that could have been a train. And you got to
Johnny in the chat room was bringing up the Angola horror.
What's the question?
He just said the Angola horror.
Yeah.
The train wreck I think that you're talking about is what he's saying.
Right. It's in Angola. It's out towards that way anyways. But we used to go out there 2-3 times, and I never really experienced anything. I'd walk the whole road back and forth. Our friends I had a big team back then, and we used to have a lot of fun. The tunnel was always interesting to me. Going in the tunnel, I loved that. But it was so narrow, you know, one car could only fit through, and people would go 50, 60 miles an hour. So if you were in that tunnel, you'd get hit. And one time I was in the tunnel when someone came speeding through. I barely escaped with my life. I almost got ran over and crushed. So was it worth the ghost train? Yeah, it was. But I do believe that energy can kind of take on a form. It's kind of like an imprint in time. And if you take something like a train where an accident has been or where it crashed, a lot of people died at once on that spot.
Right. So like a
it might reenact.
Okay, I have a couple of questions that are coming to me in private chat. I'll ask you the first one here. It says, has your guest done any research on the Superstition Mountain?
Yes, I have.
Can you tell us a little about it?
The Superstition Mountains? Okay. Well, I have not been there, first off. I want to go there. I'm very interested in hiking there, but they have the Lost Dutchman's treasure. That's what it's known for. Back in the 1800s, it's believed that the Mexicans who came down from Mexico found a really big gold strike, and the Dutchmen came in there and killed the Mexicans, took over the mine, hit it pretty good. And upon his deathbed, you know, he talked about it. Now, we know he wasn't lying, because every time he came into town, his gold was pure. And he was paying for everything in gold every time he went up to the mountain. But what people don't understand is before the Dutchmen, before the mines, when the Spaniards came through exploring the area, one of the captains that was traversing the Superstition Mountains rode up on a horse and found hundreds of his men dead, missing, beheaded. Very negative.
Oh,
place.
wow.
Today, if you go up there are some treasure hunters who, if they think you're in their parts, they will put a bullet in your head and they will find your bones 6 months, a year down the road. People are murdered all the time. Also, not just murdered, but because people don't think. They always want to hike in the summer. It's sunny out, let's hike. You do not hike in the Superstition Mountains in the summer. You will have to triple up your water intake. There's a lot of plant life that's very harsh out there. The heat exhaustion. There's crevices. I read a story about this mother was looking for her son, and her son went out to look for the treasure. Because that's what a lot of people do. They hike up and try to find the treasure based on clues and books and all this other jazz. Well, about 100 feet from camp, he slipped down a crevice, hung upside down, and died. And it's sad because they missed him. Rescue crews missed him. And so a lot of unfortunate accidents up there, whether they're all paranormal related, I don't think so. But I think that when somebody has a bullet to the head, that is another human being acting out of greed. And I think that there were tribes, some hostile tribes in Arizona. I know this for a fact because I've done investigations of ghost towns and things in northern Arizona, and they were raided by Indians too. However...
Okay, I need to get you to hold that thought for just a second.
Mm-hmm.
We're live on WCJV Digital Broadcasting out of Youngstown, New York. You're listening to Half Past Dead Paranormal Radio with Roger Belt and Cindy John Pierre and our guest, Lord Rick Rowe. we're going to take about a 1-minute break, and we'll be right back, so don't go away.
No break. No break. We're good.
Okay, we're not going to take a break, so
good,
carry on, sir.
I can keep going. I'm like the Energizer Bunny. No, but with all due respect, the Superstition Mountains is a wilderness that'll beat even the most rugged men. Now, I've hiked and climbed in Arizona and southern Nevada and Utah and California. I've cliff climb, rock climb, I do it all. I've gotten cactuses in my legs. I could probably handle the Superstition Mountain, but I would not go in the summer because summer will actually statistically it'll triple the chances of you perishing or dying because you'll go too deep in looking for the treasure or looking for the paranormal, and then all of a sudden you're going to find out, hey, I don't got enough water to get back.
Right.
I mean, you have to know what cactuses provide water as well. There are certain cactuses that have water in them, but the thing is,
right,
the whole thing about the Superstition Mountains is that for 1,000 years there have been many strange things there. Phenomenal things like UFOs, we'll say, apparitions, people have seen ghosts, strange murders unexplained, the Spaniards, the whole army wiped out. And we're talking hundreds of guys just beheaded or missing. You come back to your camp and you're like, who could have did this? I mean, it was even more brutal than what the Native Americans would do. They might scalp you, they might tomahawk you or shoot you with an arrow, but the beheading thing is a little weird. And this still keeps happening. Not as much, but people who go up there, they say they feel fouled, they feel watched, sometimes people get a gun fired upon them just for hiking out there. It's not like hiking in Northern California where everybody's stoned and having a good time. You go down in those parts of Arizona, they will crucify you if they realize you are getting close to gold. Now, there was a mine found near the Superstition Mountains. It's huge. It's one of the largest gold mines in the United States. Some people think that that's the real Dutchman mine, that the company bought it out and continued to follow the vein, and it's very rich gold. It is very similar to the gold the Dutchman had. So that's also something to consider, is that maybe there is no gold, and maybe people are going up there and they are dying for nothing. So if anything, what you will find there is probably a lot of ghosts. There are hundreds of ghosts in the Superstition Mountains. And some of those entities, they can hurt
I have
you.
one more question.
The chat room, hold on please just a second, is asking if you have any EVPs to share.
I do, but I can't access them. They're on my backup hard drive. You can go to our site. You can check out our site. It's www.paranormalghostsociety.org. You can go into the main page and click the investigation archives, and then go to like Gateway 3 or 4, and we have a bunch of EVPs you can hear on different pages. But you got to select. You kind of got to go in and you got to select the case you want. We've done almost 1,200 cases, so I'm about to add 50 more soon to the site. It's going to take me all summer to get them added because all I've been doing week after week is going out there and paranormal investigating. It leaves me no time when I spend all my time researching, doing field work, to becoming a computer programmer and getting it on the site. But there is 1,100 investigations on our site, and you can check them out. I didn't start really working with EVP until the last 4 or 5 years, because back in the day, what really happened is that when we moved from New York, we went to Florida, and then we came out here out west in California, and so we really haven't been able to build a team. And so I said to myself, I got nobody to film, nobody to produce, nobody to take EVP, nobody to take readings. And so now I try to do all the jobs, because I know that if I do all the jobs, it'll be done right. Because I've brought people out with us before. I've brought people out, and it's the same thing. Every time someone hears a creak in the floor, they think it's a ghost.
Yeah, that's one of the problems in the paranormal field, and I'm not. I can't name names, and I wouldn't want to, but you have people, and it happens a lot with the newer people coming into the field. They want something so bad that every little sound they hear is paranormal, and that's something that they have to learn to differentiate between what actually is and what isn't. It's not as easy as it looks, because a lot of things will fool you.
You're right.
And they sound like something you think, oh my God, I just got this great, it's a Class A EVP, but it's not really an EVP. it's something that just made a sound that creeped you out.
I have one more question.
Mm-hmm.
Question that was in private chat. If you were to go out there, say on a vacation or something, and you wanted to do some exploring and maybe ghost hunting, how would you get permission to go into one of those mines?
Well, you don't get permission. You don't get permission to go in mines. It says there's a sign outside the mine: stay out, stay alive. I've seen hundreds of those signs out of dozens and dozens and dozens of mines I've gone in. And the problem is that in the state of Nevada, people go in mines and die. And the people every time someone dies, they will dynamite or close off the mine using steel or iron bars. If you ask permission, they're going to tell you no because they don't want to be sued. And of course, I'm not sue happy. I just want to see some paranormal. I want to go in and go where the angels dare not tread. So I'm an explorer. So these mines, they're like gold for ghosts. And a lot of people don't want to do them, and they should. They really should. As long as you know what you're doing, it's not bad. But it could go bad very fast. I mean, there are shafts, there are loose wood boards. I remember one time I was in this mine, and we had about a 6-inch ledge, and I had to hug the wall and go over this pit that was like 300 feet down. And I made it across. My other investigator wasn't going to do it, and then I grabbed her hand and pulled. But I mean, yeah, there are dangers in the mine. They don't want you in there. It doesn't matter what mine it is, unless you want to take a mine tour somewhere where they charge you $15, $20, and then you can walk around. I remember I did under Virginia City, I took a mine tour, and I thought I would be in this really large mine system, and it turned out that the Belcher mine or whatever went maybe 50 to 100 feet. So, you could always do that too, but then you got to deal with other people. It's just not
contamination. A lot of times, and that's like anywhere that you go. When I went to Waverly Hills, there was like 2 big groups there, and they split us up, and they said, well, this group is going to take the first and second floor for the first 4 hours, and then this group is going to take the top 2 floors for the first 4 hours, whatever. But once we got onto the floors, we didn't have to stay in that group. We were allowed to go off on our own. But you had contamination with people. You would be in a certain area trying to do EVP, and the next thing you know, here comes Joe Blow and Sue Doo walking by, talking and gabbing and everything, and your EVP session's shot. But that's one of the problems with that.
Yeah. Well, that's my whole issue. I go to investigate so that I could stick with the paranormal. I don't go to investigate so I can be with other human beings. When I go look for Bigfoot, I don't want any other human beings to scare this creature away. So I keep my team very small. I keep it with the family. Sometimes I do a lot of investigations by myself, and I'm okay with that. It's peace and quiet for me. But you cannot get EVP if you have a group of 20 people with you talking, wandering around, acting like fools. That's what they're doing. They're acting like fools because they're so excited they think they're going to see something. It's like, I bet you'd see something if you went in that asylum by yourself. I go in the asylum by myself. I don't know about anybody else.
Well, I do have the golden rule: never go alone. And I like having at least one person, because there is cases where things can go bad. Yeah. And if you're by yourself, there's nobody there to get help, or there's nobody there, to do anything.
Oh, I know.
You could wind up in a world of hurt real quick.
Mm-hmm. You're right.
And there are spirits. Some people don't think so, but there are spirits that can hurt you.
Yeah, there are. I had an investigator one time stand near a window up at Central Terminal Railroad Station, and I was like, you don't want to do that. We also went to a grain elevator, and he did the same thing, and I told him, like, you do realize that you could get pushed out the window and then you're dead on this. Not because I'm being honest, because I've seen spirits move objects. I've seen entities throw objects. I know they can do it. I know about being alone. I once almost broke my leg in a nice cemetery. I was up in an area called Cold Springs, went across the road, and I my hip up on the front and I had to crawl out of it. Very dangerous. I don't know why it's doing that.
Yeah.
Maybe the network's haunted.
Roger, are you there?
Yeah.
Were you doing a breathing treatment?
No.
Oh, because it sounded like one, didn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it did, kind of, sort of.
Wow. Okay, we got some weird things going on here. Just go ahead and try to go through it.
I'll just do my best. I got a very expensive sound system here because I run my own radio shows, and I can broadcast from 50 feet away if I wanted to. So I don't know what's going on. I have no idea. I've seen stranger things, though.
Well, we have actually had voices come through when we were doing shows that didn't belong to anybody on the show.
Wow.
Yeah, we actually have had that happen. And in fact, the last show that I did with Mike Sinclair, we had a couple of things, and I found them when I was listening to the playback, and I had CJ, I marked them and had CJ go listen, and they're like way off the charts. They're not any voices of any of us. So we, it's creepy. Sometimes that stuff happens.
It does. It does. It seems like every time I get on a show, there's always some technical problem. I don't know what it is. Hell, maybe it is. Who knows? We have so much to understand about the paranormal in the world that we live in. And people that close their minds off are the ones that miss out or don't get the opportunity to see that these things exist. I see these things that exist my entire life. And when I started the paranormal group, I started seeing more and more and more, which obviously grew other interest in other topics. Because everything's connected. UFOs, Bigfoot, it's all part of the universe. And everything in it branches off in different directions, but it's all the same. Paranormal people don't understand. We have yet to understand. We have yet to find out the who and the why.
Whatever that is, it's really creepy.
Yes, it is. It's very creepy.
It's weird because it's not me. So I think that maybe do you have another caller maybe on or something? Maybe
No, it sounds like someone breathing really raspy and terrible.
It does, doesn't it?
That is weird. I didn't hear the talk, Dita, but it kind of sounds like somebody's breathing, and then it's almost kind of like a raspy thing, but I'm not sure if it's like somebody trying to say something or not. Mishka said EVPs, yes, raspy.
Well, I once was at a mill at night out in a place called Gold Hill, right next to Virginia City, and there was a cyanide tank because that's how they process gold. And I knocked on the tank 3 times, something not 3 times, and not fast. There's nobody in it. There's nobody around the middle of the night. So spirits can communicate. They can also. There was this article I posted about ghosts in the machine, about objects in the light. I've had television just turn on and off. I've had electronic interference in my house, and during those times when the interference occurred, there was a lot of ghostly activity. I brought something home, and so yes, there are dangers when you go out in the field. You visit them, they visit you.
There it is again.
Yeah, I've seen that.
It's not you, Roger. It's not. And I muted myself. I have no idea what that is.
It usually starts up when Rick starts talking.
Yeah, I know.
Is it coming in with Rick?
It's almost like it's trying to keep him from saying what he's wanting to say.
Yeah.
Yeah, because every time I hear it, I'm like, I pull my microphone away, and I'm like, okay, you can stop breathing now.
Right. You'll start telling about something, and all of a sudden that'll come in there, and it tries to knock you down where your voice gets lower, and it's almost like it's trying to stop you from saying what you're saying.
That's just weird.
Mitch just said it sounds like wind blowing through a mine.
Well, here's the kicker. I was on Skype with my son for an hour and 15 minutes today, and he said to me, Dad, you sound really good, because we ran the technical support and all that for our sound system for this show, and I had him help me with it so we could get it all set up, and there was not an ounce of problem. So the breathing is very odd. It's like I'll get to telling you guys something, and then all of a sudden I'll hear breathing. It's like, who's stalking me out there?
Right. I just muted my mic for while you were talking there, and that was still going on. I know it's not coming from me.
No, it's definitely not coming from you, Roger.
So whatever it is, it's something trying to dissuade you. Maybe, I don't know.
It's so weird. I don't know either, but I just do my best. That's all I can do.
Well, I mean, just go carry on like you're doing, and whatever it is, will just have to suffer because we're not gonna let it win. We're just gonna keep right on going.
Good
Hey, that's the way you do it, you know.
Good deal.
What we'll do is, what we'll do is at the hour, I'll have Rick call back in. Just hang up and call back in and see if a different connection doesn't help it.
Okay.
And if not, well, then we'll have Roger call back in and see if that doesn't help. Okay, go ahead.
Dita said every time I talk, it stops. Now, it's not coming from me, so is it listening to me? I have no clue. But anyway, she said every little bit say because when you talk, it stops.
Every time I talk, it begins.
Exactly. And see, you started and I almost heard it start coming in there for just a second.
Huh. Maybe it's the connection. I don't know.
And there it goes again. Anyway, but it keeps going sometimes whenever you stop talking. It'll carry on for a little bit before it stops.
Wow. Yeah, I don't know. But I did have in my house for the longest time. In this year alone, my house has been haunted twice, not once, but twice. And both were haunted places. One of them was a cemetery I came home from. And so my TV was acting weird, turning on and off. And, there was cupboards being slammed, toilet being slammed, flushing the toilet. A lot of this would go on at night, 2, 3 in the morning. I'd be here working, and then I would hear paranormal activity with no explanation.
Right. I see it does. That's twice when I said something, it stopped.
Mm-hmm.
That's crazy.
I'm thinking either I would think somebody else is on here breathing. That's what it sounds like on my end. It sounds like someone breathing, and then they stop.
There it is again.
Yeah.
Turn your modulation back just a little bit.
It's not me. I can mute my mic and it still does it.
Okay, the next time it starts up, I want you to mute your mic.
That's what I did a while ago, and it kept going.
Okay. All right, go ahead. Carry on.
Okay. So hopefully it won't happen again, but it probably will. I'll just try to recall in when we go on break, and we'll see if it's better. If it's the same, then something's really up. Because I hosted a radio show, a paranormal one, and this was back last year. It was just a special show. And I was on for 8 hours. I can go 8 hours at a time. So I went like non-stop. But I got it the last few hours of the show, we were discussing paranormal. And so it shouldn't be a problem. But anyway, I'll carry on the best I can do. And ghost in my machine, right?
Okay, now I just muted my mic again, and it was going on and on and on, and then when I say something, it stops.
That is totally odd.
It is, because if it was coming from me, when I muted, you wouldn't have heard it.
Yeah, strange. I don't know, maybe there is something extra or whatever going on here.
Maybe you got a pal there with you, Rick, that wants to talk when you do.
Then that would make it almost every time, right?
Yeah, because every time you talk, they talk.
Over the years, I've learned that ghosts can talk a lot if you learn to listen to them. I just don't want them catching a ride on board some radio show, you know? Might go through the internet. You might be haunted tonight.
True.
Like I said, we have much to understand about the paranormal. And people, in order for people to understand the paranormal, you really have to do a lot of investigation to understand what's out there. And the more you do, the more you see, the more you learn, you're going to find out that there's more questions than there are answers.
That is very true. Mishka brought up a point. There are weird sounds in the wind. Have you ever noticed, and having said that, on a windy day, you can hear if you listen. There's different tones in there. And if you've ever been in a place where the wind whistles through the trees, so to speak,
yeah,
you can hear different pitches and stuff in there. It's almost kind of like the trees talking through the wind, if that makes any sense.
Well, some people say that Earth is kind of like a living being. And so that the trees and the rocks and certain beasts and even wind, it's a living spirit, and it can talk through basically anyone and anything.
Right.
Native Americans believe spiritually that everything's alive or has a soul. A lot of them believe that everything is energy. The trees, clouds, the sky. So it would not surprise me. You hear those sky trumpets, that's some pretty big news. And
Right.
scientists say it's friction, it's the aurora, it's magnetic, magnetized atmosphere where the aurora borealis is. I don't know. It could be a naturally created sound, but how come years ago we never heard these types of sounds? That's what it's something new. It could be a mothership coming so close to Earth. It could be planet size, which could cause it off. It doesn't even have to be in our atmosphere. It could be close or up in space, and it could come within our gravitational field and cause it. Since these are worldwide, it could
Exactly.
be up, definitely.
Now, that time it didn't stop completely when I talk. I can still kind of hear it in the background, but it's low.
Well, I had muted it. See if it was mine. It's not mine.
Well, it's not mine.
No,
So I muted it, and it was.
it's not. It's not either one of you, and I'm continually muted until wow. No, it's not either one of you two. It's coming through on a different. I'm looking at all the controls here, and when you're muted, Roger, I still see it, and Rick, I saw that you just dropped out there, and it still was happening.
Yeah. Well,
That's why. And there's nobody else on the air with us, so where's it coming from?
Very weird. I at this point, I don't even think I have an answer for it. I just know that I tried muting it, and it was still going on. So I'm like, it can't be my mic if it's still going on. But like I say, weird things have happened. I've seen Bigfoot, so I mean that pretty much really opens up your mind when you see one of those.
Yeah, well, we're going to be coming up on a break here in a couple of minutes, and when we come back, I want to get into a little bit of that too.
That's cool.
And also later on in the show here, probably I wanted to talk about Bigfoot, but also about some of the UFOs you've captured on film and stuff like that too. So.
Sounds good to me.
But anyway, see, there it is. Now, when I started talking, it kind of backed down to a low drone. It's picking up again now.
Yeah, I just muted it. It's still coming.
And that,
I don't
yeah,
know,
and
I don't know.
I can mute it, and you'll still hear it.
Of course, maybe we.
CJ's going to analyze it when the show's over and see what comes up.
Yeah, I definitely would look into it a little bit more. As far as everybody who's listening, just please bear with us because strange things do happen.
Okay, Roger, go ahead and take it to break, and we'll go to break 2 minutes early, and you guys both hang up and call me back, okay?
And we'll see if that stops it or whatever. Okay, we're live on WCJV Digital Broadcasting out of Youngstown, New York. You're listening to Half Past Dead Paranormal Radio with your hosts Roger Belt and CJ Cindy John Pierre. And our guest tonight is Lord Rick Rowe. We're going to take about a 2 or 3 minute break, and we'll be back. So everybody hang around. It's going to get more interesting. Okay, everybody, we're back, and we shall see if we've made any headway in the noise reduction thing. I wanted to get into some of your Bigfoot research, and I know you guys, you said you found a kind of like a Bigfoot dwelling. Explain how that is, because from what I saw, it kind of looks sort of like a teepee in a way, but not.
Well, the Miwok and the Washoe Native Americans in the region, they build bark houses. They don't. A teepee doesn't have open slats in it, nor is it built on the side of a cliff and have 200 to 300 pound logs. However, whatever made that,
There's the breathing again.
the creeper. But anyways, it's some of them are 14 to 15 feet in height, and there is no wood press. So whatever made it put a lot of time and effort into making the shelter, and then they fortified the one end where the winds come up through Lake Tahoe, built to perfection. I couldn't have built it better. There would be no way I could build something like that. You'd have to carry all them logs up the mountain, miles, and then you'd have to know how to fortify. The one end was very long. And you have to fortify. They had fortified it as if they migrated during the winter down to a lower elevation, stayed inside the shelter because there was these three logs that had no bark on them, and my investigator at the time thought, hey, this is kind of like a pillow. They're all kind of like a pillow. And I was like, he says, it looks like something's been resting on each one. And so I believe in theory that there was a male, a female, and then they came down to a lower elevation to procreate or have a young juvenile. And there are smaller Sasquatch in the area, so you have to assume that they might be a year or two in age. But at the site, there was a mutilation of a deer. The bone marrow was sucked out of the bone. It was a force fracture, which means it had to be snapped with the force of probably someone's hand on each end of the bone, and all the marrow was gone. Anyways, when I was with my investigator at the time, we examined the site very thoroughly. And this site had everything that represents what a Bigfoot encampment would be. You have a very large shelter. It's open so that way when the deer come by the shelter, these creatures can just pounce and grab them. We found deer bones near the shelter. We also found another deer that was mutilated by a mountain. And you could see the difference between the mountain lion attack and whatever took down the deer. You also had a golf ball next to this huge rotting log. On the log was a rock that I'd never seen in that area, and it was very heavy, and you could tell that something took the rock and beat on the log multiple times. There was nicks, because Sasquatch uses freebanding. Good form of communication, it's less obvious than them vocalizing. You can kind of be quiet, and on the trees, two signals might be, hey, there's some humans in here, we gotta get out. Because they're always migrating, they're always on the way. Although they do build shelters, they do hide in caves, they do go up in caves. Those are facts. I have found a lot of shelters, but nothing of that size. That shelter was built in blocks of concrete. Sounds like thunder. But the shelter, it was designed, and not as a teepee. Because see, in a teepee, the top is open, covered in bark, and then it's covered in paint. This was more like an intelligent Gigantopithecus could probably build it. Carry a log on his shoulder, a couple logs. The posts to the shelter were pounded in the ground. The logs, they were deep in the ground, 6, 7 inches, 8 inches deep. So something literally pounded into the hard ground, which means whatever made it had a muscle, and it would probably have been even 1 or 2 feet.
Okay, if you're still talking, I'm not even hearing you now.
I'm here. I'm just trying to. I turned off I muted it to see if it's a problem on my end. It's not. So I guess we're just going to have to grin and bear it. But the shelter had a lot of strange things. For example, there was a golf ball hidden under a log, and there's a golf course further down at the bottom of the mountain. So we found a string up in a tree tied to a pine cone. All those items a Sasquatch could obtain just by going down to the bottom of the mountains where the golf course is, or people's backyards are, because this is a creature that gets really close to society. Very close. So, and I'm trying to show people, I'm trying to prove that we have to coexist with it. However, when I came to the shelter, he had mutilation of golf balls to a primate, to a juvenile primate. That golf ball became
It's almost like somebody is shooting some interference through here. I don't know how they would do it.
No, because even when I turn off my microphone and my sound system, it has a power button, it just continues and continues, and then I'll stop, and it'll stop after a while. Or it'll keep going, and then it's total interference. Total interference.
CJ said, did somebody hack us? And I guess it's possible, but who'd want to do that and why?
If I started talking about aliens and the UFOs, I could see someone wanting to do that, but I've only gotten so far about Bigfoot and ghosts. You know what I'm saying?
Right. So it's like, well, it's not that, so we know it's not the reptilians or the Greys.
Greys or some other weird alien species that looks like some other weird monster. The whole thing is that I always tell people that as looking for Bigfoot is something that you give your heart, your soul, and all your passion. Because if you do not do field work and you do not do hours and hours and hours of hiking and climbing, you will not find it. If you do those things, you are almost guaranteed to find evidence every time if you work hard enough.
Man, whatever that is, that's crazy.
It is, man. It is. I don't know if somebody was a hacker or did something. The Skype act's a little weird. Like sometimes it shows like other people being hung up.
That sounds like somebody breathing like they're going.
It sounds like somebody's hacked us. That's what it sounds like, and somebody's trying to take this show down.
Yeah, and
terrible.
does that bring anybody to mind?
Yes, sir.
It does. I don't. That sucks. That totally is bogus. All I can do is I'll continue to try to tell you guys whatever you want to know.
Actually, there's two I think of, but only one of them.
What, Roger?
I said there's two people I could think of that would have a reason to want to do that, and only one of them has enough brains to actually do it.
It's like Dumb and Dumber.
Well, in this case, it'd be Dumb and Smarter because one of them would actually probably have the brains to pull it off. The other one is not very tech savvy at all. So, I think it narrows it down.
Yeah, but see, here's the whole kicker. They're not really smart if they're associating with the one that's dumb.
Well, they're not. They're two separate entities. Mm-hmm. But both have reasons to want to do some crap like this. Only one of them has the brains to pull it off. That's what I was saying.
I've been on Skype a lot because I used to take Skype phone calls on my radio show, and people would call in with paranormal questions. And I could have them on for 2 hours on Skype and never have a problem. So hearing breathing on there, because it is somebody breathing, is pretty out there. I will just leave it at that.
Oh my Lord, this is terrible.
And you know what? We know it's not coming from me
or me,
but
or Rick.
Yet when I talk, it stops for a second or two until he starts talking and it comes back. Well, and now
it's not talking.
Yeah,
there it is.
Yeah.
That's why I say we're being messed with.
But it's doing it like so that whenever I talk, it stops, and that's to make it look like, and this is my opinion, that it's coming from me. And as soon as I start talking, it quits. So, in my opinion, and I could be wrong, I'm not the brightest tool in the shed, or the sharpest, but somebody wants to make me look bad.
Okay, Rick, do me a favor and can you mute your mic for just a minute?
Yeah.
Still there.
Yeah, it's still there. Just
now you notice when I talk, it kind of dulls down?
Yeah, stand by for a second, Roger. And nobody's talking.
I heard something there,
It came right back up again. The noise started all over again.
I heard something. I'm not sure if it was a voice or what.
Okay, Rick, can you unmute for us?
I'm unmuted.
Okay, it was happening with both of you guys doing nothing.
Mm-hmm. I agree. I heard it.
Somebody has got to be shooting some interference in there some way. It's like Dita said in the chat there. It doesn't matter if CJ says something or me. Either one of us could say something and it stops. For a second or two, and then it'll start back up again.
Yeah.
Well, that time it didn't stop.
I talked to my son today for a while, and it was clear as ever because we did recording practice reports. I don't know what the deal is. I wouldn't doubt it if somebody's pushing some kind of interference or static through. I've seen it happen on a few shows. There's been a few. I used to be on live streams, and people used to do that all the time. The only good.
Well, in any case, Rick, we're gonna have to get you to come back on, okay? Because this is ridiculous. I mean, it's like we haven't been able to hear hardly anything you've said this whole hour.
Wow.
Yeah, I will send you a copy of the recording, and you can see for yourself. I mean, every time you try to talk, it gets louder and it builds, and it drowns you right out.
That's really weird. I have a copy of the recording in studio quality right now, so I'll probably hear what you're talking. I hear it now. Actually, I hear it.
Yeah.
And even if I mute it and Roger mutes it, we're still getting interference. So it's very weird. I don't know.
Well, somebody that knows what they're doing is doing this some way. Now, Is it that you have a attachment there with you, or somebody that you brought home? Possibly, but I don't think so.
Mm-mm.
I think it's somebody that's hacking into the system and causing some interference or throwing interference in here. Saying so bad right now, I couldn't hear nothing hardly you were saying.
Do you want me to try to call in the show? Do you want to give that a try or what?
Yeah, give that a try. Let's see if we can get you back on a phone and see if that doesn't make a difference.
They might not, if they're causing interference, they won't be able to do it with my Skype if I can call in. Now, do I got to use
Okay.
do I have to use my Android or regular phone or what?
Use a regular phone and call back in. You've got the number, right?
Yeah, actually, I will call in while I'm here so there's no gaps. 716-745-42.
Okay, here we go. All right, how's that?
I can hear you.
And it's gone.
It's coming through. Somebody's gotten into your. Oh my gosh, Rick! It was your Skype.
Maybe. I don't know. Is it gone? Is it gone?
Yeah, it's gone.
Totally gone.
Because I'm still on Skype with you guys.
But
Wow.
we're not hearing that because you're actually not using the Skype right now.
Oh, there it is.
Yeah.
Here it is.
Okay, I'm trying to think which way. Okay, if he's on the landline, he can cut Skype off, can he?
Yes.
Okay, cut your Skype off and let's see if that makes any difference.
Oh.
Okay, now it's really clear. There's none of that static crap or any of that stuff. On with the show, Johnny said. Yeah, now we can actually hear something. Impossibility of a human being to do that.
Yeah. Okay. Now that the static's gone and someone's done hacking into my Skype, now I can really get into talking about Bigfoot. So anyways, Kings Canyon is located on the edge of the Sierras, whereas California, well, it's Nevada, but it's right there. If you go up in Kings Canyon, you can hit Lake Tahoe from there. The Washoe used to do it on foot. But anyhow, I went up into the canyon, and I decided to climb some cliffs, and I'm the only one that really knows where this place is. And I traversed up into the peaks, and I found this place high up in the canyon. And it was designed with about 15 to 20 logs, perhaps, maybe a few if you count the smaller branches. The one end was fortified, and on the site there was a log with a rock on it because Bigfoot uses tree banging to communicate. And of course, us Bigfoot investigators, we experience that all the time. Rocks being thrown at us. We'll find rocks on stumps, rocks in the middle of nowhere. I'll go off into the wilderness. I'll find one on a log. And there was a rock that had a bunch of crystals in it. And someone or something was pounding the log with that rock. And I imagine the crystals would amplify it. So that's why they chose a rock with crystals. But everything around the site, like the post, were very deep in the ground. The logs are non-existent up there. There's one log that the rock sat on, and that log was, it would take a few people to wrap their arms around this thing. It's a couple 100-year-old tree. However, there was a fire in Kings Canyon. So the firemen went in about 20 years ago, and they chopped a bunch of logs, which are at the bottom of the canyon. This thing's way up in the mountains, and something individually had to carry these logs. And we're talking miles. So the one end was fortified towards where the wind comes through off of Lake Tahoe, which cuts down on the wind chill. I know because I went up into the little cubby hole that was built at the end of this thing. It's not a teepee, as I try to tell people. It's not a teepee because teepees, bark houses, I have plenty of bark houses on my site and teepees and those things. I live in the Wild West. And you have to differentiate between bushman shelters, bushwhacker shelters, Bigfoot shelters, and then you have the human type. Or you have the human type is by the Miwoks and the Washoe tribe. They still build them to this day. They have replicas at some of the historic sites I go to. But this is not covered. This has slats. And you have this little meat trap where you can throw a pine cone. There was a pine cone throughout the trees. And then you had it hanging. And it almost looks like someone may have been hanging a piece of that deer we found because the bone was nearby. and the bone was a force fracture, and it looked like something had took both its hands on the bone and split it in half, and it had kind of like a triangular cut in the bone, and all the marrow had been sucked out of both, as opposed to another bone we found that was mutilated by a mountain lion. That was not the case. The marrow was still in there. You could see the teeth marks on the bone. So something with a lot of power had made the shelter. And so then it started to come to me that a lot of people in Kings Canyon have come up missing. They just found last year ago a skeleton up in the bushes, and they don't know how to identify this person. The bones could have been there for 6 to 10 years, which brings me to the point of, if these things come so close because there was a golf ball on the site, which is symbolic in the fact that maybe there was an adolescent, maybe a juvenile. Primates like to play with small balls. If you ever go to a zoo, they give them a couple balls to play with. And we found the ball right below the stump, or the log with the rock on it. And then the shelter was next to it. The deer, there was a track nearby, a large one. And then the deer mutilation, and then we had so that little rope trap. And all that could be gathered at the houses below the canyon. If you go down below the canyon, there's a golf course, there's shops, there's people's backyards. The wilderness meets people's backyards up here. And it's not just with Carson City, it's not just with Gardnerville, it's all the little towns along the Sierras and in the Sierras all have Bigfoot prospects. And so this I watched an interesting documentary my friend sent me called Missing 411, and it's about is some of these missing people attributed to a Bigfoot attack, or possibly they were eaten, because people were always, they're always vanishing. People are constantly disappearing, and when you have 9 people that go up into a canyon that's not very large, because if you want to see a large canyon, I've been in canyons a mile across and 1,000, 3,000 feet down. It's not a massive canyon. So when people go up there and they don't come home, you have to wonder, was this person taken by aliens? Were they murdered? Was it Bigfoot that killed them to suit its own hunger, to provide, because there's a lack of food due to the years of drought? Because we're on our 3rd or 4th year of drought, and this is really bad. This is not just bad for Bigfoot or forest creatures. This is bad because when you sit here and you think about it, if there's no water and there's no food, who becomes victimized? Who becomes its prey of such monsters that lurk in the woods, like Bigfoot? And there's other cousins of Bigfoot, too, especially out in your region, Roger. And, you look at the Hopkinsville case up in Kentucky. Those things wanted to kill that family. They wanted in that house. And what would have happened if they had gotten into the house? Would those people have been eaten, come up vanishing? People found in the middle of the national forest, they're not even found. Their clothes are found. Their bodies are found high up on cliffs that either Lord Rick's going to climb or Bigfoot. Not the average normal person or the average person who's going to say, I probably shouldn't climb that. It's not that safe. So you find a lot of children, you find a lot of small dogs and small animals, but you also have cases where adults, I go hiking all the time, I see adults by themselves, and that's bad. Because if you don't have the expertise and you don't think on your feet at that moment, you could be swiped up from behind. You always got to be looking behind you. You always got to be looking in front of you, because this thing could stand behind a tree, and right when you walk by, it could just snap your neck and run off with you. And people don't think like that. They don't understand that the forest is not our land. It belongs to the creatures. Are you hearing me okay?
Yeah, Dita was saying in the chat room that she always thought Bigfoot was gentle if not bothered, and you're saying they are hunters of people. I said, no, they're hunters, period. They'll kill and eat deer, and others, they're not just vegetarians.
Yeah, that's correct. They eat meat. They're opportunists, and whatever they can find, they'll eat. I'm not saying all Bigfoot are bad, but people need to also understand there's 2 sides to every story. And there's bad and good in everything in life. And when it comes to a wild animal or a wild creature, if it's you or them, it's going to be you. It's not going to be them. And so, you have some of the males, maybe some of the males are territorial. You also have food shortages out here in West. We're having water problems. Reservoirs are becoming next to nothing. They're dry. So, that could be a huge issue. No food, no water. What's this thing going to do? And then you have 411 vanishing people or missing people in national parks. Like I said, I watched a documentary, Missing 411, and it does hit a lot of key points, a lot of things I've been saying for many years in it, and that people just don't vanish. And we're not able to find them, so where did they go? Because some of the places, there was a kid that disappeared outside Las Vegas up near Mount Charleston. Now, Mount Charleston has had a little bit of Bigfoot activity, but the kid walked 10, 15 feet away from his camp chasing a ball, and the parents turned and looked. The kid was gone. They never found the kid. And you have missing people in the forestry, and the government does not want to talk about it. They do not want to release any information. People go missing, and it's never talked about again, which leads me back to a point in history where the Native Americans up in the high Sierras were having their women, and what happened is that they were eating the women or eating the children and trying to breed with the women. And
okay, we're going to have to break real quick. You're listening to WCJV Digital Broadcasting out of Youngstown, New York. This is Half Past Dead Paranormal Radio with Roger Belt, Cindy John Pierre, and our guest, Lord Rick Rowe. We'll be right back. Okay, we won't be right back. We just won't be gone. Anyway.
It's okay. I don't need a break. I don't need a break. I climb mountains. Who needs a break, right? But the whole Bigfoot wars that were fought, the Native Americans rose up. They're like, no, you're not going to steal our women. You're not going to eat our children. And they pushed these creatures back. And they pushed them into the wilderness, pushed them on in there. And so now, yeah, they are more peaceful. So in that aspect, that is true. But ask yourself this. If you were 20 miles in the middle of nowhere by yourself and you spent 4 or 5 days looking for Bigfoot, and let's say you find tracks and you find an encampment and you find evidence, you don't think there'll be repercussions? Because that thing could get you at any time it wants and you will never be found again. It could literally just bury you in the ground in the middle of the woods, and nobody would ever find you. And so people need to understand monster hunting can get you killed. It's dangerous. You have to know what you're doing.
Now, speaking of burying in the ground, that's one of the questions, and I've asked this of other people who search for Bigfoot. Is that possibly why no one ever finds a Bigfoot body? Do they bury their dead?
You know what? That is a possibility that they bury their dead because they're so much like us, and perhaps they're trying to preserve the species. But the other theory is that these creatures come from another planet. Or some people refer to them as the original humans of the earth. They're the original creatures of the earth, and that they took when Lucy evolved, and eventually when it branched off into these creatures, maybe we're a separate DNA strand, because it's just a little bit off. And maybe humans were, they were biologically engineered. That's always a possibility. But with the Bigfoot-like creatures, if you ever notice, if you study a lot of cases, wherever there's a lot of Bigfoot sightings, there's a lot of UFO sightings. And people have reported seeing strange lights and craft, and moments later they'll see 1 or 2 of these creatures walking in the woods. So maybe the reason why we don't find them, maybe we're looking in the wrong place. Maybe what we need to do is start looking towards the skies. Because if we're not finding them here, where are they going?
I've heard that, and I've heard that they're interdimensional creatures and stuff. And, there's lots of many reasons why, I guess, that we never find a skeleton or, anything to, substantiate that they exist. Only the people that seen them know.
Well, I've seen them a couple times, but I find at least 1 out of every 3 outdoor places I do expeditions at, I do find evidence of them being there, whether it's tracks, it's some odd mutilation that doesn't add up. It could be a shelter. Last year I found 3 different shelters in the middle of the woods, and I can't say those were human-built. They look like some of the Midwest Bigfoot shelters you see up in Missouri. There's a few in Wyoming, and you can go to other Bigfoot sites and study them, but I found a lot of evidence that there's Sasquatch up there, and I've seen it. I don't need to see it again because I've seen it. I don't mind seeing it, but there has to be some caution in this field. If you shoot at it, or you're aggressive, it might cause it to defend itself. Just because you shoot something doesn't mean it's not going to take you out. There's other ones in the area. So, it's important to preserve the species so we can learn about it, but at the same time, it's, when you're in the woods and you're investigating these things, it is dangerous. And, an example of that, I guess you could say, is I went to a place called the Carson Iceberg Wilderness. It's a very beautiful place. There's lakes, there's cliffs, there's mountains. It's like being in heaven. And I set off during the day for about a 7-mile hike. No trails, nothing. Just went up into this very large canyon, very woodsy, multiple creeks, and it can get very confusing. You get turned around back there, you could get lost for days and end up dead. But my dog had ran off. They have these cattle in the woods. Sometimes you come across them. And for some reason, my dog and I encountered 3 cattle, and he chased him and ran off. He ran away from me. I didn't have my best friend with me. I had my dog. So I'm like, okay, whatever. So I hike back to my truck. It's getting dark. And right before dark, I find like an 18-inch track with toes. And it looked like something slid. Like it stepped down. It was muddy on the hillside, and there was little seasonal creeks. This thing slid. But you could see that it made a toe impression, and it made a very huge track, and then there was a couple disturbed places of dirt. It came down. That was in the middle of nowhere. No trails, nothing back there. And so I took measurements of the tracks. I'm thinking, I lost my dog. He's probably back at the truck. Maybe he's lost forever. I don't know. But I started, when the sun went down, right before the sun went down, something big crashed through the woods. And I'm just like, okay, I don't see it. How come I don't see it? It's, 50, 100 feet away. Could not see what did it. But it had to be hundreds and hundreds of pounds. And I hiked back for about 5 to 6 miles, almost 7 miles in the dark by myself. And this thing trailed me for 5 to 6 miles throughout the night. And it just followed me. And when I stopped to take a break and sit on a rock and get some water, get a snack, charge myself up with some protein, all of a sudden, I'd get up and it would start moving. And it was trying to be real careful not to make itself obvious, but I knew it was there. Thought I even seen eyes looking down at me up on one of the little rocky edges. Because it's like a maze in there. It's a labyrinth. You go in there, and there's all different kinds of directions. But the thing is, you don't have a lot of big animals in the Sierras. A lot of deer. I've seen antelope in the Sierras for my first time recently. But you don't have a lot of big animals. And this thing was so intelligent, it followed me for 5 miles. And I was measuring the track, and I never felt so watched before in my life. And it was funny, because I went down a dead end where I couldn't go no more. And I had to backtrack. I'm thinking, I'm going to probably run into whatever's doing that. And I never ran into it. It was like so elusive, moving in the woods. The woods is their playground. You can't.
The chat room is asking if they're nocturnal hunters.
Oh, yeah. They like to come out at night or early morning. My son's seen 2 of them across from a lake. And he said that one of them took a rock and was banging on a tree. And he said he took a rock and banged back. And the one looked at him, and they took off. So I don't think they expected to see someone out so early because the sun was just coming up. But you're in their country. You're in their territory. And there's a good chance you'll see one or you'll find some evidence if you're really that determined to find it. And that's what keeps me going is determination. Because when I go off into the woods, I don't know what I'm going to find. I may hike all day and find nothing. I may say, hey, let me climb that little cliff over there and go on that plateau, check the dirt for some, tracks. And I might find one up in the middle of nowhere. But I always would like to get one on video. That's always my goal. And it just seems like when they show up, it's very odd because by the time you get your video camera going, they're gone. They're always gone. And my son, he's had sure.
Oh, you're online.
Good evening.
Your Eminence.
How are you this evening?
I am just fine. How are you?
I'm very well. I'm amazing.
We know that.
You're welcome.
Lord Rick, let me introduce you to His Eminence, Bo Jerkhart, the Grand Poobah of the Paranormal.
What's up?
It's a pleasure for you to meet me. Mr. Rowe, I'm a big fan of your show, Dirty Jobs, and Deadliest Catch, and you narrating Ghost Lab. You stayed very busy, and the Ford truck commercials. Very good work.
I stayed busy and I stayed gray.
Yes.
So, Bo, what's been going on in your neck of the woods, or should I say your backyard?
Well, I have a lot of amazing things happening at this time. So many things going on at once. I'll share with you some of the things that are going on. As you know, I've spotted recently dinosaurs crossing my backyard, and it seems that one of them tangled with one of the Sasquatches, one-legged Sasquatch that roams around in my backyard also. And I was recently in the front yard taking pictures of cars going by and heard a very loud cry. So I immediately went in the backyard and took about an hour and a half, because I'm about 400 pounds, of a Sasquatch laying in a clearing. And apparently one of my dinosaur friends had eaten him. So I'm very sad about that. I'm overrun with emotion because both of these creatures are my friends. I'm very confused on how I should feel. I'm sad. I'm mad. I'm going through a lot of anxiety. I haven't felt this way since my food stamps were late.
So, did you have a memorial service for the one-legged Sasquatch, or what?
In fact, yes, I did, and I ate the rest of the remains.
So, now, was that deep-fried Sasquatch, or did you just, do it over a spit, or what?
Barbecued, yes. They are very tasty. I don't blame the dinosaur for that, but there's a time and a place for that.
Right,
and
not in the backyard.
Not in my backyard, yep.
Yeah, a little bit.
Not in my backyard. Everyone says that. Not in my backyard. That goes...
So tell me,
yes.
Have you been working on any new material for the album?
I'm taking a break right now, but actually I've been relaxing in my backyard and writing some new material for hopefully an upcoming album project. I still have some unreleased things that will be made public shortly, so I'm looking forward to that. It was a great run there. Sold a lot, met a lot of people. The album went #1 in Zimbabwe, and I'm very proud of that.
Now I have to ask you about the sandwich entity, because and I know you're working on the Nobel Prize thing. Have you heard anything else from them, or?
No, actually, I've centered my energies now on the Nobel Peace Prize between the one-legged Sasquatches and the dinosaurs now in my backyard. I think I got a better chance at hitting that. In fact, okay. I called a production company, and I wanted to get a documentary on this, and I keep calling them, but they don't return my calls. I don't know why.
Well, maybe they feel like that you're a little bit too impressive for them, too amazing, and they can't handle or deal with, with all that.
Exactly. Thank you.
Hi, Bo. Could I ask a question, dear?
Hello.
Hi there.
Yes, you may ask me anything.
Do you have the sniffles, baby? Do you have allergies, or is there something going on, or?
Do I have the sniffles? Why am I sniffling?
Yes, you are.
I was crying for my one-legged Sasquatch.
Oh, poor baby.
Yeah. So, I do need a Kleenex. I'll just wipe it on my sleeve.
Well, you don't wear sleeves. You wear the sleeveless shirts.
I know, that's why it makes it so hard.
Now, Rick, feel free to ask Bo any questions there if you can think of anything you want to know about, because Bo knows everything.
Okay. Well, let's see. He knows everything, huh?
Bo is the grand poobah. He knows it all. So
I have everything in my backyard. I have UFOs, Bigfoot. I have ghosts. In fact, I have some startling new news tonight for your listening audience. I will share that with you right now if you guys want to hear it.
Oh, please
Sure.
do.
Okay. This might explain the sound that you were getting over the air before. It may have been the government that knowing that I was going to be on tonight. I posted that I would be on. The government is monitoring my every movement. I have credible evidence that a team of shrunken men are now living underneath my house. They have the technology, and the government just won't admit it. But there's a hole outside of my house that goes underneath the building. What else could it be? It's got to be little men. I know they are under there, and I have proof.
Now, you say little men. Are you talking about midgets, or are you just talking about little men, like the Munchkins from the movie?
No, very little, probably about 4 or 5 inches tall.
Oh, that kind of little men.
Yes, and
You need to get some pictures.
I'm gonna try, but I have evidence that they are under there. When I'm quiet, they become quiet. How do you explain that?
That's a good question. Now
Yeah,
I know,
they have to be under there.
Rick, you've seen Bigfoot, but now can you say that you've ever seen a one-legged Bigfoot?
No, man, I've never seen a one-legged Bigfoot.
Yep,
I wonder how if they just they got, they can run on all fours, so they could still run on 3, 2 arms and 1 leg, right?
Sure, they're unipedal.
What is Bigfoot? What is
they're-
Bigfoot?
What is Bigfoot is it's a hominid. Yours are 2-legged. Mine is 1-legged, coming from the species of the Gigantopithecus, I believe.
Very good. Very good. You know what? You're lucky you got the one-legged Bigfoot, because if you had the two-legged Bigfoot, you might not be around anymore, because then they could chase you faster.
Right.
You get away from the one-legged one.
They're very slow swimmers.
Yep.
Now, and see, Bo is a healthy man, about 400 pound, and he doesn't move very fast. So if it was a two-legged Bigfoot, they catch him. See, the one-legged one just hops along behind him and everything, and it looks like he's just a puppy following him around in the backyard.
I think a quadriplegic Bigfoot could catch me. So getting back to the little men, if I may.
Yes, go ahead.
It may be because of the government is researching something. I am onto them. I want to say that it's possibly the development of a new military weapon. You see, my property has the highest concentration of awesomeness on the planet, and I think they're trying to harness this into something. I'll be getting to the bottom of this very shortly.
Now, so you're not pursuing the sandwich entity anymore? I'm sure Rick would like to hear about the sandwich entity, the explanation of, and the processed entity and the other.
Oh, absolutely. I will. Okay, sure. You see, people claim to have seen ghosts of people and ghosts of animals, but my research is what about processed animals, like in luncheon meat? And, for instance, I have been trying to capture on film a ham sandwich, the ghost of a ham sandwich. And recently I was investigating a place, and I had an attachment of a pastrami on rye. And it took a while to get it off of me. I had to summon the spirit of Mama Cass to eat it. But all is well now.
Now,
But
did Papa John help with that, or
I do believe there are haunted pepperonis, yes. And I was working on a Nobel Prize for that. Right now, my research is on hold with the dinosaur thing going on in my backyard.
Now, that's
Very
okay.
sad.
It'll be okay.
Very sad.
I understand that's very saddening that happened.
Yes.
And now you're going to have to.
It's got to be. It has to be traumatic. I mean,
Yes,
something
yes.
like that.
But now you can also try to capture evidence of the one-legged Sasquatch ghost in your backyard. So, that's something to look forward to.
Yes, and the little men.
And the little men, yes.
The little men, and also I've been working on recently the demon children. With the warm weather, I've noticed an increased activity amongst demon children. They masquerade as normal children. They run around in the park pretending to have fun, shouting and running and wearing short shorts. And I'm onto what they're doing, and I'm keeping a close eye on them.
Well, now,
Mhm.
if they have balloons, do you still urinate on the balloons to ward off the spirits, or?
Yes, I will. I will urinate on their balloons to get rid of the evil spirits. I'm trying to do this for the good of mankind, but you get like the politically correct wackos out there that say, "Oh, you can't chase the children. Oh, you can't shake the children." It's not like the good old days. Now all I have are my memories and a few faded Polaroids. But I will be watching those. I'll be watching those children very closely. Thank you.
Now you don't when you're relaxing, after a hard day's investigating in the backyard and everything, and you're just tuckered out. You kick back in your recliner there, and I know that you keep your urine for
the zombie apocalypse.
Yeah, for the zombie apocalypse and all that, but you drink the Mountain Dew or 7-Up or whatever it is, and you get them mixed up.
I do. It's Diet Mountain Dew, actually, because I got to keep my figure.
Oh, speaking of
Yes.
figures, I love the picture of you in the dress airing out your. We won't mention that, but yeah.
Oh, that was me. You got a. How did you get that? All right. All right. Well,
One of the little people sent it to me, actually.
ooh. I knew it. They got these little tiny cameras.
Yeah, and I had to blow the picture up where I could see it because it was so tiny. It was a little bitty thing, and
It's amazing that they can have such tiny cameras and have more megapixels than my camera.
and the photo quality is just amazing. But it's so little, you got to expand it, to where you can actually see, everything. But yeah, they sent me this picture, and they said, you need to check this out. Bo was actually in a black dress, and he was showing off his female figure and all that. And
I hope.
I won't go into everything they said, but
I cannot confirm nor deny that. That's my answer, and I'm sticking to it.
well, now they sent this to me, and they was pretty adamant about it. So
Hey, did you see on the? Oh, I'm sorry. Did you see on the news just this past weekend that Ireland is now the first country to legalize same-sex marriage?
No, I didn't see that.
Oh, you didn't? Yeah, no, it went through a referendum, and now they legalize same-sex marriage in Ireland. I'm hoping that this leads the way to same-self marriage. As you know, I've been
Right, because I know that you wanted to marry yourself.
Yes, I want to marry myself.
Is amazing enough, to stand next to you. So
I've been leading the charge for quite some time for same-self marriage, and I don't see why I can't do that. I would keep my same last name. I get along great. I get along great with myself, and I know when I get lucky.
right, that's true.
Yeah.
And now, are you going to stand in the mirror and propose to yourself and do the whole thing? Get on one knee and all that. And
Oh, I can't get down on one knee. I won't be able to get back up. But it'll be very romantic in my backyard.
now, but are you going to have like the large mirror out there where you can see yourself and
I'm gonna get a big cake, and I'm gonna have just me on top of it.
yeah. Okay, that makes sense. Okay, and
Yes.
now you're going to place the ring on your own hand and the whole 9 yards, and
Yes. I'll be holding my other hand, and I will put the ring on.
and the preacher's going to say, "Bo, do you take Bo as your lawful wedded?" Now, how would you pronounce that? It wouldn't be wife.
I might write my own vows to myself. I haven't worked on that yet. Yes.
You could always marry the one-legged Sasquatch.
I will invite them to the ceremony.
If you like them hairy.
Yeah, you never know what they got going on down there, huh?
Actually, that's a good point. You got to look at it this way. You can marry the one-legged Sasquatch. You can have a honeymoon in your backyard and invite the dinosaurs and the little people and just have a big party, and yeah.
Hopefully they'll all get along. This might be the peacekeeping event of the century.
Exactly.
That's how I can get my Nobel Peace Prize.
There you go. I married a one-legged Sasquatch. Now, wouldn't that look good on the National Enquirer?
Well, I got to get to know them a little bit better. I know myself kind of, but we'll have to see what's happening with that. So, but
I just want to know, just saying that.
Yes. I also wanted to add before the show ends, if I could give a plug. I'm going to be appearing at AmazingCon on June 20th.
Okay.
I'll be signing my latest book, Me, My Selfies, and I. It's my coffee table book. It's dedicated to pictures of myself, all my selfies, candid ones where I'm not looking and looking up in the sky, and the ones where I didn't know that I was taking a picture of myself and things like that. But that will be at AmazingCon, which will be taking place in my backyard, and it's by invite only. Only the people with my book will be allowed to enter, and since I have the only copy, I will be signing it for myself.
So, basically, you're going to be the only one there?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Well, anyways, we're going to have to get ready to shut this thing down. I want to thank everybody. Lord Rick, it's been amazing.
Yeah,
Bo,
it's been amazing.
Always amazing when you're here, Bo. So, everybody in the chat room, Data and Mars, Johnny was here, but he had to, what's that word? He had to jet out. So, anyway, everybody listening by phone, etc., whichever ways you're here, we're glad you're here. Couldn't have a show without you.
And Lord Rick, we'd love to have you back to try to get the whole interview
without all the background noise. Yes, that'd be awesome.
I'm just going to call in next time because I think someone was hacking my Skype. I really do because I used it today. I used it today and I didn't have no problems. I do shows on it all the time. So I'll just call in. That'll make things easier. Perfect. No one can mess with me.
Exactly. And we'll try to get that set up here real soon. Data's saying, yes, please do come back. She wants to hear the actual interview.
The actual stories. Yes, they were excellent. You were fantastic.
A lot of interesting stuff. Just that crap was like just beating you down half the time.
Yeah, I don't know what it was. I'm really baffled by it because I muted it and it was still doing it, and then I called in because I figured if it is my Skype, it won't do it. Then I shut it completely down, and then it stopped. So I used to have people prank my Skype all the time. So I advertise this show to like 10,000 people, 20,000 people. So, and every time, you get some good apples and some bad apples in there. Some people just want to like interrupt your Skype or whatever if they know you're going on the air. So it was weird. Right. It was breathing. The breathing was very weird.
Yeah, it sounded like somebody just like, doing, like somebody would call up a girl or something and do the heavy breathing thing.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of what it reminded me of.
Well, thank you, everybody. Thank you, Rick. Thank you, Bo, sweetheart. I love you. You know that. And thank you, my little brother there, Roger.
Yes. Thank you very much. It was awesome that you got on the radio. Anyways, it's been an awesome show, and we're gonna have to get you back on, Rick, and try to do this without all the crap in the background.
And
Yeah.
breathing. Yeah.
and breathing.
No problem, Roger. No problem.
Oh, was that you? Was you sending your energy in there and breathing in the background?
Was who?
I'm sorry?
Me? Maybe it
that
was
you
him, yeah.
That was sending your energy into his Skype, breathing in the background.
Did you say me?
Yeah.
I can't hear you. Oh, yeah, it sounded like me, but I hadn't called in yet.
Okay, folks, we're going to have to shut it down. I'm right at the present time. I can't give you who next week's guest is because it's still in the air at the moment. I've got a couple of different people I've been talking to, but I will get an event up just as soon as we figure that one out. So, everybody, I'll see you next week. Same time, same channel. Have a good night.